So Claire, welcome to Liverpool. I'm sure you've spent plenty of time here, but probably mostly at Aintree.
Yeah, I first started coming, I covered the Grand National for BBC Radio and BBC Television for many years, and always had them. I was here the year of the bomb scare. So we ended up in the Working Men's Club right opposite Aintree Racecourse, having a cup of tea, wondering what on earth we were going to do, and then staying the extra couple of nights actually, because it was rerun on the Monday. And that was the first time I'd really been out and about in Liverpool on a Saturday night. Wow, you lot, you know how to do it. Oh my word.
Oh,
and I've loved it ever since.
We've improved since then as well. Right, Claire, we're going to go back. We're going to find out a little bit about you and where you are now, and get some advice from you if anybody wanted to follow your kind of career path. So tell us about your early life and your childhood.
I grew up, my dad was a racehorse trainer, which is why I covered racing as my sort of first broadcast speciality. And he trained racehorses, and we had dogs as well, so sort of country outdoor lifestyle. And I think both my brother and I realised the dogs got more attention than we did. So I made it my mission to essentially be a dog. I thought that was a very good option. I still think there's a lot of value into doing the equivalent of wagging your tail when you see anyone that you recognise or think, or who smiles at you. You just smile back. And if you can focus on food and exercise and sleep and love as your 4 core things, Jürgen! Whoa!
We love you, Jürgen.
See, Jürgen, he's got it right. Just smile at everything. It's, you know, and worked out pretty well. Anyway, yes, so I grew up with horses and dogs. And the other thing my dad said was you had to fall off 100 times before you could be considered a proper jockey. So my brother and I fell off on purpose every single day, about 10 times a day, and I then got to 100 really quickly, and then he said it didn't count, which was really harsh.
Did you get many injuries from those falls?
Yeah, I broke a collarbone when I was 2.5.
Ouch.
But it's really good when you're young, your bones are very soft, so they mend, so that's fine. And that was his other thing, you had to break your collarbone and fall off 100 times to be a proper jockey. So I was like, got the collarbone really early. But funny enough, when you start, and this is true across life, when you stop being afraid of falling off, or your equivalent of falling off, when you stop being afraid of failure, you're actually much less likely to fail. And it doesn't matter if you're singing in a choir, or you're acting, or you're going into a room of people that you don't know, or you're playing sport. There is always that fear that stops a lot of people. I might fail. And actually when you go, do you know what, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, I'm going to try, because that's the biggest thing of all. If I try, yes, I might fail, but actually far more likely is that I will succeed. And so actually Dad teaching me to fall off was probably a good thing, because I fail all the time and I love it. And my attitude is, with live television and radio, you're always going to make mistakes. Yeah. So now I still, it haunts me when I get things wrong, and I got something wrong on the Sport Relief show, and I'm so annoyed about it, but you probably didn't notice, so that's fine. And essentially I'm trying to get it right, but when it does go wrong, and when we're live at Wimbledon and John McEnroe appears 2 seconds before we go on there and says his pants have split, and I think he means underpants, but he's American, so he means trousers, but still, either way, pretty awful, I'm just going to laugh, because it's okay, and people don't mind, and our vulnerability and our admission of our failures is part of what makes us human, and I think that's important. Anyway.
I kind of prepared questions, but at no point did I allow room for John McEnroe's undies. So Claire, I obviously read up about you, and I know that you were a lead amateur jockey, and I guess as a youngster, when you were throwing yourself off a horse, that was your ambition. Was to go professional with it.
Well, funnily enough, in the racing world, it was so difficult, and when I was young there were very, very few, I mean hardly any female professional jockeys, and frankly, look at me, I'm not exactly built to be a jockey, so that wasn't going to be an option. But also, I'm so pleased now that various, and actually at the Cheltenham Festival, we had 3 female jockeys winning top class races for the first time ever, which was great, and Rachel Blackmore in Ireland is pretty much nearly their champion jockey, and getting loads of opportunities as a professional. The jockeys before that tended to do well, like Nina Carberry and Katie Walsh, who both, you know, had Grand National rides, they stayed as amateurs. And there's this really weird thing that happens in life, and particularly in racing. Everybody's delighted to use us women when they're not paying us.
Yes!
As soon as it comes to actually having to pay us, they either pay us significantly less or would rather pay a man. Now, that that's part of a society that I'm working quite hard to challenge, because actually I think it's better for all of us if we have the qualifications, we've got to be able to get the experience to then get onto the next level, to then reach the top of the tree, and it would be better for all of us if that was a level playing field. So in a lot of what I've done over the last few years, well, all my life, but particularly the last few years, I made a decision to really since I stopped presenting racing. So 3 years ago, ITV got the rights to racing, and I wasn't part of the plans. And you suddenly do that, God, who am I? If I don't present racing, actually, what is my identity? And I went through a little mini, long walks with a dog, going, okay, you can, it'll be all right. And then I made a decision, right, what I will do is focus on women's sport, because I think women's sport has a real power to have a big impact on lots of girls and women of all ages. This isn't just about young girls, although obviously they've got more time to take that impact and do something with it. But I think for all of us, for our confidence levels, to stop obsessing about what we look like, to stop having the camera on selfie mode, if you know what I mean, to shine the light out, to look at everybody else, to say, right, we're in a team together. I want to get the best out of you and you and you and you, and we'll do this together. Not, oh my God, everyone's looking at me and I'm here in the same t-shirt for the second day running. Oh, panic. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And I think women's sport shows us that.
And obviously, it's glorious being here for the netball, and it's on the back of the Women's Football World Cup. There's the women's cricket. So taking on board what you just said, do you think we are turning the corner now for women's sports?
I think this year has been a massive breakthrough, and I knew it could and should be, but even I am surprised and delighted by the amount of recognition and respect that women's sport is getting now, and I hope that it will, the financial reward and the investment in it will come with that. But I love the fact, I just walked along from the waterfront with a dad and his son, and his wife and daughter have got tickets to the netball, and the boys have come with them because they were going to be taxi drivers and they're here for the weekend. He was going, it's just phenomenal. He said, I was watching one of the matches on the big screen, cannot get over the athleticism and the brilliance of play. Now that's where eyes are opening, and we need men with us. This is not a battle of women versus men. This is us all as human beings, as British people, and indeed around the world. And I think this Netball World Cup, and I think the Football World Cup as well, have really changed the way people look at women's sport. They're taking it more seriously. We need regular reports, we need fixtures, we need honest profiles of players. You need to know more, because if you know more, you'll care more. And then you get into a situation where actually the brands, who are pretty important, the sponsors, the supporters who are putting money behind it, whether it's Vitality or whether it's the companies like Nike suddenly designing football gear for women for the first time for this World Cup. Like literally, it's 2019 and everybody was wearing small size men's kits, and they were clearly not quite built for a female shape, but suddenly they've got it. And that matters, because that makes a real difference. So I'm thrilled with what's happened, and I think it's now up to all of us to try and build on it in the way that we can. But I want every girl in school, when they say to their careers teacher, I want to be a cricketer or a footballer or a netballer, when boys say that, they never get laughed at, and their parents are thrilled. And they go, God, yeah, that's something really aspirational. I want girls to feel that too, that it's aspirational, that there's a proper career path to it, and that they won't be scraping around, having to sleep on mates' floors, which is what's happened to a lot of female athletes across all sports for the last 100 years. That's what they've been doing. They're bunking down with mates because they can't afford to actually just keep the show on the road. And I think if it's entertaining and people are buying tickets, then the people who are the performers on that stage need to be rewarded.
And of course, I know that you're really passionate about everybody playing sport, but young females particularly. And that's not just with the end game that they're going to be a professional sports person. You mentioned selfies earlier. Please stop with the selfies so much. But it's about making that rounded person and building confidence, and it's about making that full person, isn't it?
I mean, technology has taken us to a place where we've got the internet and a phone in our back pocket, and it's also a camera. I'm all for recording events that you're at. My point is, in your mind, when you post that picture and you're looking for either affirmation or that people are looking for approval all the time, give that approval to yourself. It's okay. You don't have to have loads of likes and loads of followers. And I think there is, social media is a wonderful way of bonding people. It can be a great way of connecting. I think actually it's very good for women, professional women and women with shared interests to get in contact with each other, because we don't do the club thing so much. Because we've got better things to do with our lives, but anyway, so we can reach out while not actually leaving, the environment we want to be in. But my point about the selfie is you don't look inwards all the time. That's my point. Just keep the light out, keep looking outwards. And that's why sport's such a good thing, because it's a shared experience, and you're watching the action and you're gripped by it. And it's your point of focus, and it's all you're thinking about, and that mentally is very good for us. Concentration, somebody once wrote, is the key to happiness, and I've never forgotten that, because it's really funny, when you're concentrating hard, time flies by, and it's why music and sport and games are so powerful, and the work, if you do a job that you love, and that really takes your focus and concentration, time flies. And you come out of it going, God, I really enjoyed that. And it's not, the pressure can be a good thing, but it's the real focus that your brain just feeds off and loves it.
Now, you talked there about doing something you love, and we know that you love your job. You're often saying that you feel quite blessed and you love doing your job. So at what point did you think to yourself, I'm not perhaps going to be a champion jockey, I'll try a career in media? Or did you fall into it?
I went to university and I wanted to actually be an event rider. I wanted to go to the Olympics and ride for Great Britain, and I love my equestrian sport generally, but with the eventing and show jumping and dressage, you don't have to be 7.5 stone, so I was like, get in, I could do that one. And I went to work for a very famous event rider called Lucinda Green, used to be called Lucinda Palmer. Went to work for her. She was amazing athlete, and through the 70s and 80s, she was the dominant force in world riding, and eventing, equestrian sport generally, is really interesting, because a bit like sailing, there is, women quite often are the ones who are number one in the world, or the gold medalists. They're all competing on a level playing field, although obviously it is driven by finances, and they've got to have the financial backing, or they've got to have it themselves to be able to do it, because it's darned expensive. But Lucinda was one of the first professional event riders, so she dealt in horses and kept the things going by selling horses and buying new ones and making them good and selling them. But she won badminton on 6 different horses. I thought she was amazing and fearless, and I went and worked for her, and I paid to be a working pupil. And I lasted about 10 days, and then she said, listen, tell you what, Claire, I think it's great that you've got so much interest in this and you're clearly very committed, but really and truly I think you ought to go to university. So I went, okay. She's basically telling me, you're not good enough, you're never going to make it in this, go and actually study. So I went off to university, and I did a lot of writing for the student newspaper, and I did a lot of essentially basic broadcasting, i.e. speaking in public. And now, if I was at university now, I would definitely be using the internet to publish blogs, to film, use your computer. I mean, Microsoft's got it all there. You can shoot and you can edit and you can put graphics on things and you can make really good films. You can actually broadcast yourself. You don't have to be reliant on someone else. But in my day, you did have to be reliant on somebody else. So when I left university, I got a job at 5 Live, kind of by accident. 5 Live was starting, and they made me a trainee broadcaster for sport, and they sent me off on various courses. And I went to my first Olympics in 1996 to report on the equestrian sport. And the mountain biking came through the cross-country course. So I suddenly started reporting on mountain biking, and I knew nothing about mountain biking. And that's when you get tested. So I stood next to the coach of the British team, and I got all the information I could from him, and I asked him lots of questions on air, and I watched this thing and did loads of research on we couldn't just Google it. I got all the paperwork from the press office, did all the work on the cyclists that were likely to medal, and I loved it. I thought, this is really fun, actually. This is a real intellectual test of doing stuff which is way out of my comfort zone. And that's probably what then gave me that drive to try and do other sports and not just stick where I felt safe.
So where are you up to now with, we may have some time here whilst Claire tells us this list, but so what sports have you commentated and reported on?
So mountain biking, equestrian sport, racing, tennis, cycling, swimming, Rugby league, which I loved, and I presented that for a number of years, really, really enjoyed it. Rugby union, I worked on the Six Nations. Women's football, but I don't do men's football because enough other people are doing that. I've done, what else? Hockey. Olympics, obviously you cover everything from trampolining to, you know, judo to whatever. I mean, it doesn't matter what's on. Paralympics I've presented since 2000. And that, I think, where there are probably two areas in which sport, I think, has a real power to change things, change the world. And one is women's sport, for the reasons I talked about before, and the other is Paralympic sport. Because I think particularly London 2012 set a new standard in making the Paralympics parallel to the Olympics, which is what it means and what it's meant to be. And that was the first one that was planned with the Paralympics absolutely at the forefront of everybody's thoughts. And therefore the Olympic Paralympic Village was designed with wheelchair access in mind. And all sorts of, you know, if you were visually impaired, it was the first time you really were catered for within the system of that competition. And I think that has changed for all of us, not just our perception of disability and what it is to think differently in terms of what you can do rather than what you can't, but also the practical side of things, how you build a shopping centre, how you build an office block, how you build a hotel or a house. If you've got access in mind, you build it differently. And for loads of people, it's that barrier that stops them. It's the fact that you're going to have to ask for help to get up a step that will stop you trying to do it. And that's where I think the Paralympics has really helped change that. And obviously in itself is an amazing sporting competition, and has propelled people to new levels of recognition, which is important. And then you look at Johnny Peacock and Lauren Steadman, both having appeared on Strictly Come Dancing and both doing really, really well. That again pushes sport out into other areas. So I've come away from the list because it'll get boring if I just start listing sports, but plenty. There's a few I haven't done, but...
How do you prepare for that?
Darts, I've just remembered I did present darts.
You have done darts?
Yeah, and bowls, I've done them. Yep.
How do you prepare for that? Because, you know, if you were doing about equestrian stuff, that was your background, you grew up around stables and trainers and all of that, but how do you prepare? You can't know everything about every sport, so how do you do that?
I think there are a lot of occupations where the same thing happens, and I think teachers do this all the time, I think lawyers do it all the time, politicians do it, I think mums and dads do it all the time as well. There are loads of different things you've got to know on a given day, and I'm very good at, my short-term memory is very good. So I will cram and really do the homework. I'll try not to bluff it. If I'm in a situation where it's been thrown on me at the last minute and I really don't know what's going on, I will do what I did at the Atlanta Olympics and stand next to someone who knows and ask them. Because one of the good things about being a presenter on telly is you don't need me to know it all. You need me to ask the questions you want the answers to. And to ask someone like Chris Hoy or Mark Foster or Becky Adlington, or whoever's with me, and they really do know. That's the trick. I don't have to show all my homework. I need to do it, if I can, if I've got time to do it and it hasn't just the last minute. But, you know, I need to do the homework and then let them show their expertise. So that's my approach. And also, I try to really immerse myself in the event. So like coming here, I don't want to just stand on the sidelines and watch. I want to feel it. I want to meet people, I want to talk to them, I want to know their experiences, I want to read about the players from different countries and know what they've been through to get here. And I think that's a joy of it, is where when I went to London 2012, I was not one of the main presenters. I was a reporter, and I happened to be doing swimming, and I'd done swimming for a couple of years building up to it, so I probably knew more than anyone thought I would know. She doesn't know anything about swimming. Stick to the horses, love. You go, yeah, great, thanks. Anyway, I'd done my homework, but I was very aware that there weren't going to be that many British swimmers in any given final, so you've got to then do your work on your American swimmers or your South African swimmers. And the big breakthrough, and the thing that changed everything, for me, and this is in my 40s, not in my 20s, suddenly in my 40s, and I've done a lot of broadcasting. The big breakthrough happened in London 2012 because Michael Phelps got beaten by a South African called Chad Leclos, and I got his dad on. And his dad then comes on air and sits next to me like this, and I didn't even... Mark Foster Foster, who went to get him, because Mark Foster is the perfect man in every way. I could genuinely live with him and it would be fine. And neither of us would threaten each other in any way. But he also is the perfect man because he does what I tell him to do. So off he went. So I said, go and get him. You need to get Chad's dad. And he went to talk to his friend who had been a South African swimmer, and she said, don't get him on live. You mustn't get him on live, he swears a lot. Now, I never knew that. So, of course, I got him on, and I say to the editor, I've got him, I've got Chad's dad. And he says, no, we need to go back to the studio to Gary Lineker. I said, no, you don't. Anyway, so I get Chad's dad on, and I literally have time to say, what's your name? And he says, Bert. And I say, with an E or a U? And he says, an E. And then off we go. And all I did was I just went, what a performance, and held the microphone. I hardly said anything else, and then off he goes. Oh, look at my boy, my beautiful boy. This is unbelievable, Claire. This is unbelievable. This is the greatest day of my life. Oh, look at my boy. Unbelievable. And then the camera came back on him, and he goes, oh, don't look at me, I am fat. And then in the middle of it all, he said something, I think in Afrikaans, which probably was a swear word, because he looked at me and goes, are we live? I said, yes. And he embodied the joy and the pride and the passion you would have if your child did that, did the equivalent of what everyone said was impossible, beat Michael Phelps in a race at the Olympic Games, at his first Olympics, Chad's first Olympics, in an event Phelps hadn't been beaten in for 10 years. It was extraordinary, and he made you feel what he was feeling. And that's where I think with television, if you can break through the screen and you all feel like you're with me at the event, that's the magic, you know, the magic key. So in a sense, yes, it's what I know about, and it's doing the homework and you feeling confident, you trusting me that I'm not going to mess it up, but also it's about what you feel. And that's what I try and do. And hopefully, you know, certainly in London 2012, that was extraordinary, and I didn't expect that, but I'm really glad it happened. And every time since, I've just always thought to myself, right, how are you going to jump in, you know, they jump in the pool as it were, but how are you going to make everyone feel they're there with you? And that's been my driving force. So whether it's walking around in a Winter Olympic Park in Sochi with a trolley, running up to people and randomly interviewing them, or in Rio, same thing, you know, we were wandering around and they've decided I'm good at wandering around, so now they won't give me a damn studio. you know, you build your own problems sometimes.
We've got about 5 minutes left. Does anybody have a question that they're desperate to ask Claire? You have. I'm going to run down, oh, we have got a roaming, great. It's the lady there in the black t-shirt.
I'd just like to ask you, Claire, whether you played netball at school.
I played netball at primary school, very badly, and quite often I was the one who'd get left out and sat on the bench, and but we know that feeling, don't we? And actually, yeah, and I think that's important as well, to know that even at elite level, I had a conversation once with Kate Richardson-Walsh about this, because she had a year at school. Kate Richardson-Walsh, Olympic gold medal winning captain. She got left out of the team. It's like, what? And she still gets quite emotional about it, talking now. She didn't get selected. I'm like, why? But we've all had that feeling of being left out. And I think in my head I thought I was really good, and actually I'm not. But that's why I presented the Sport Relief Netball the other night and didn't play, because I could present it.
Anybody else got one? Oh, this gentleman over here, where's my mic gone? I'll tell you what, I'm going to come to you. Didn't you have the Jurgen mask on earlier? Oh, he's on his back now, everybody can see it. Right, what have you got?
Claire, if you had a time machine, what sporting event would you like to go back to and relive?
I'd probably just go back to London 2012, relive it all every day on a loop for Olympics and Paralympics. I thought it was sensational, and a bit like, you know, this event here in Liverpool. When you've got the pivoteers here have been amazing. You know, 500 volunteers forming the absolute bedrock of this event. And the same was true in London with the games makers. When you've got an event on home soil and you really can enjoy everything that makes it what it is. So for me, it's not just about our success on the field of play. It's about our success as a host nation. I think we're really, really good at it. Look at that Cricket World Cup final as well. The whole World Cup, the whole Cricket World Cup. We really love it, and sport matters to us. But for me, it's much more about the broader message. So London 2012, I think, gave us confidence back as a nation. Because up to that point, I think we all thought it was going to be a disaster. And now look at, since then, all the events we've hosted. And what huge levels of success they've attained, and that security hasn't been an issue, and that ticket sales fly, and this is the best attended Netball World Cup ever, and we embrace it. So yeah, that's what I would do. But therefore one can relive it by just taking it through with you. You just take that spirit through, and the torch is still there somewhere inside me. Well, I didn't swallow it, but you know what I mean.
Fabulous. Then one last very quick one. Oh, can you really shout?
Oh, he's running towards you, to the edge.
Get him on a team,
pass
quick.
all that team there.
Sports.
Here we go.
Hiya. Is there a sport that you haven't presented on that you would like to present?
Well, I've loved all the. Actually, I used to do a lot of golf commentary for the radio, so I'm keeping an eye on the Open scores, and I love doing the Open, and I did the Ryder Cup at Glen Eagles as well, and that's a really interesting skill because you're very close to the green, and so you're whispering away. He's got a putt here, 5-foot putt for birdie, and it's going to rock it, and then you can go really loud, and the crowd cheers, and it's got blah blah. So I enjoyed that. But essentially, I'm always looking for the next thing. I would love to have worked on the Women's Football World Cup, and I'd love to have worked on this for television, and actually got to at least experience this and do the Sport Relief thing. But Wimbledon kind of went across both of them. So I'm really lucky. There's nothing that I go, damn it. And if I did it, it would take it away from somebody else. So it makes me sound like a martyr, which I'm not. But I'm doing the things I love, so I'm really happy.
Claire, you work very hard. I had a chat with you before we came here and said, what have you got coming up? And there was a long list of lots of things. What do you do to relax? Do you ever relax? I fear you don't.
Here's the thing, I don't ever regard this as work. So frankly, every day is, I don't get that stressed. I get, sometimes if you've got a deadline pressure, when I'm writing books and they want it in by certain dates, that can make me feel a little bit, but it's just like exams then, you just got to do it and get on with it. So I learned to enjoy the pressure. I play golf, not very well, but I find it quite relaxing, and I walk a lot. I do the most lovely walking programme I've done for 20 years for Radio 4 called Ramblings, which is of everything I do, it's my favourite thing. And although, yes, that's work, in the sense it's for a programme, I find it really relaxing. I love going to different parts of the country. I love walking with groups and with people who know they know loads of things that I don't know, and I love that. It's like it's like your best school day outside. It's great.
That's brilliant. We're going to have to wrap up because there's a netball match coming up soon. Anybody staying to watch it? So can we have a large Liverpool cheer for our very favourite guest of the Netball World Cup? It's Clare Balding.
Thank you so much. Cheer loudly. Obviously for England in the bronze medal match, but also I think we're going to see a sensational gold medal match between Australia and New Zealand. The quality of those two teams is just superb. So do enjoy it and keep making friends with each other, because you'll have experiences over the course of this competition, you will have done already, that could change your lives. So keep doing that. Thank you very, very much.